Welcome to another episode of Mission Compliance, Unleashing Growth Potential for Defense Contractors. Today, we're diving into a topic that doesn't always get the spotlight, but absolutely should: your public-facing website and the role it plays in compliance success or failure. That's right, what your company posts online, from marketing copy to downloadable PDFs, could be the very thing that trips the alarm during an assessment or even violates CMMC or DFAR's requirements. So if you have ever wondered whether your website is a sales tool or a security risk, this one's for you. Don't call it a comeback. We're joined once again today by Mike Frieder, President of On-Call Compliance Solutions and a CMMC professional assessor. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Hey, always a pleasure, Roman.
So let's jump right into this. This is obviously a pretty important topic because when you're talking about CUI and things that are sensitive and you don't want things to get out there, you got to be careful about what you post online in a very online world. So let's jump right into this. Why is it so important to coordinate between compliance teams and marketing teams when it comes to managing what appears on your public site?
Yeah, and dish control, I have to tell you, this one's personal, right? Hey, look, obviously everybody knows that I have a hand in marketing, right? It's no secret there. And I have to tell you, when we went through a DIBCAC audit for CMMC level 2 and assessing, this is one of the controls that they got us on that still to this day I just think was really unjust. But I'll tell you this, we got a better understanding of it. We certainly fixed our problems, and I'll tell you exactly how I did it. So the first thing to understand is that when they say control CUI on posted or CUI posted or processed on publicly accessible sites, the first question is, what on earth does that even mean? And it can mean a variety of things. So the first thing it can mean is it can mean websites or social media, which are publicly accessible. I'm sure everybody here has done this, right? You go to some defense contractor's website and they got pictures of a Black Hawk helicopter firing some super secret weapon. Look, if that's an authorized release and you have permission, great. But in a lot of instances, it's not authorized and it's not allowed. So, that is a significant concern to the DoD is even just sort of the online presence of information. Um, Look, it's tough for a defense contractor, right? It's really, really tough because, look, you're trying to market and sell your goods. Some of your goods, obviously, it looks very impressive that you're selling to the military, and so as a result, you want to post that stuff, and it's cool, right? I mean, it's if you're making some super secret laser or some other crazy military item, like it's cool. Everybody thinks it's cool, and it's definitely a trigger phone calls and leads and whatnot. But you have to make sure that you're not accidentally posting CUI especially from a military capability perspective, very dangerous. The next thing is that it could be that you have something post through your firewall like a DVR or any part of your system which is publicly accessible that you can post to. Yeah, DVR is really not a great example because you can't really post to a DVR per se, but you do have to make sure that if you've got information that can be accessed publicly, and again, it's out there for people to find on the internet somehow, that you are controlling it. So what is this control really, what is it really for? Well, what it's for is putting a system in place that says, look, if you've got publicly accessible sites, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're part of your CUI handling boundary. Now, this is the part that I was upset over this. I won't kid you. There is nothing whatsoever in writing that says that if it's not part of your CUI scope or boundary that you've set for the assessors, that all of a sudden they're going to reach out of that and go pull your website into it. I just simply disagree with it. I disagree fully, wholeheartedly. It didn't seem right at the time. But that's okay. It just is what it is. So that's a warning for all of you out there listening, watching here on YouTube. Be aware of this. You need to have a couple things in place. And of course, I'm sure we'll go over it during the assessment points. I'll explain a little bit more, but the bottom line is this: you have to be controlling the content your company posts out there. And let's be honest, the marketing and sales guys really want to tell the world about all the really super cool stuff you're doing. But the problem is that the DoD doesn't. And certainly if it's based on a defense contract, that's where we really have to be very, very careful. And you need a system in place, in fact, to review and make sure that no CUI is making it out there, and also another system to make sure that if there is CUI out there, that it's taken down very quickly. So that's really what this is all about.
There's no a assessment point question per se on this one, Mike, because this is not a even though this is not a control episode like we do sometimes. This came from a YouTube video you did a while back. This topic does lean directly into that um, assessment point in 3.1.22, and it leads me to think of a quick story for our viewers out there. A while back, we send out the compliance emails with a lot of these controls on them, and one of them, which happened to be 3.1.22, we got an email back by a guy that was trying to trap us, who claimed to be, a C3PAO, and then he stirred up all this stuff online about how we had this control wrong and all this stuff. And then if you go to the website about the DoD website that is designed to point people towards resources to get this stuff right, on call's video for that very control was listed as a reference. So
Yeah.
so we
Yeah.
realized quickly that there were people out there that just had misinformation, and they thought they were right and that we were the ones with misinformation. But here at on the Mission Compliance podcast, we at On Call, we bring you the truth about compliance. Uh
Yeah,
so
and not only that, but I mean, I'll speak to that because it's funny. I had forgotten about that incident.
that was a
Um,
fun day for me.
Let me tell you guys, I'm gonna, if you're listening to this podcast and if you haven't really got some pretty major social media following, I mean, our videos have helped millions of people in the defense industrial base to understand compliance and just get a clue what all this stuff is. And frankly, the government has used a lot of our material as reference material to help people understand the controls. And you know what? We don't get a penny for that. We don't. And by the way, we're happy to do it. Okay. There's definitely a subset of people who really just simply need help getting this implemented. That's who we, that's those are the people that we help and get paid to help and things like that. Obviously, we encourage all of our listeners that if you're struggling with this and you want to quit beating your head against the door, reach out to us. We can definitely help make this thing go a whole lot faster, do it right, do it better, etc. But what I'll tell you is this. There are a slew of people, and it's exactly why we do the YouTube channel. It's exactly why we do the podcast and all of our other social media. And, because we are sort of the big target in the market, they want to pick apart everything that we say.
Hmm.
And that's okay. We call those people haters. And typically, we find out that they have like less than like 5 employees in their company, or they're just a one-man show and they're very, very small and they operate in a vacuum and they're doing what they think is going to get them some PR, some press, in their LinkedIn feed or, whatever it may be. Look, you know, I think one of the things that is really challenging is you go and you try to do something that's very goodwill. You put out this information there for free because you realize, at least we realize, there's a lot of small defense contractors out there and they have the same legal obligation that the big ones do. And they really honestly need help. And we're here to help. It's to me, it's a goodwill gesture. It's something that I think also acts as an outlet for us here at the company to talk about this stuff. It's just like to us the coolest topic.
Hmm.
It's rapidly evolving. We follow the laws. We follow the latest kind of incidents and things that happen in the industry. It's an exciting time in cybersecurity, and we love talking about it right here on this podcast. By the way, if you're not subscribed, definitely smash that subscribe button because we just bring it to you. And in this case. It was a guy who like got a copy of one of our marketing emails and he picked apart some weird wording that we had. And it wasn't weird wording. The wording was fine, but he kind of like misconstrued it and pulled it apart and did all this goofy stuff. And I have to tell you that we've seen a lot of folks. First off, generally speaking, 98% of the comments and feedback and stuff is all love. And thank you guys for that. It really does keep us going. We sometimes internally on Slack will post up some of those comments to show our whole marketing team that we're doing an awesome job and you guys love what we're doing. And thank you for that. It really means the world to us. Once, that 1 or 2% of the time where people are either, just trying to tear us apart or rip it down, they always turn out to be these really itty bitty companies that
Hmm.
they're not out here helping you guys, right? They're not posting stuff for free and they're not trying to help anybody. They're greedy individuals who want to misconstrue the information we put out there and find the one thing out of, I don't know, what are we on, like 2,000 videos or something like that we put out
A lot.
the last 6 or 8 years? Um, and again, for those people, uh, God bless. It's all good. You are part of the noise. I appreciate the fact that you read our emails that carefully. It really makes my day. And I know what's behind it. And you know what? Godspeed to you. I wish for you all the success in the world, and that's my attitude about that stuff. But I will correct misinformation if I see it. And frankly, we just try real hard to not get involved in that. Anybody who has social media is going to have hate. That's just kind of part of it. We kind of laugh a little bit because, man, if you can get a hater in the world of like compliance on cybersecurity for defense contractors,
Mm,
that's some pretty niche hate right there.
yep.
But yes, indeed, this control was picked apart, put back together, and the reality is that the DoD and the federal government actually do use our videos frequently in their references on how to find solvency for the controls. That control happens to be one. So sorry to go on that diatribe, but you know what? We kind of freestyle a little bit here on the podcast, and when something's on our mind, we want to talk about it. And you're absolutely right. I had completely forgotten about that. And so there's a lot about this control that I feel really, really can trip people up.
Yeah.
From the idea that like, why would I have CUI on my website? And then, finding out that if you have a website that's even related to the business, it's still got to kind of come in scope and you've got to really control
Hmm.
it. It's interesting. We now offer a DFARS NIST and CMMC compliant website hosting service where any kind of change has to be reviewed by actual people who understand these laws to verify there's no CUI going to the website and go through our sort of approval process and stuff like that. And so out of this control, we actually created a new service to basically manage defense contractor websites so that they could get this control met properly. Certainly, with any one of our consultations, you're going to get all the policies and guides that you need to, but yeah, it complicates things, and it can definitely slow the process of getting information out to market, but not by that much. You just need a simple review process. So I don't know. Let me turn it back over to you, Roman, because that was. But again, I think it's important to cover that stuff.
And what I will say, one more aside about that incident before we jump into the next question is that's the point. I can't speak to that guy's intentions about what he was trying to do, but what we saw was when he posted it, it got a lot of traction and a lot of agreement from people online, and it really kind of clicked to us about how confusing some of this compliance stuff can be, which is why we are here at On Call to go step by step through a lot of these things with our podcast episodes and our YouTube videos to kind of clear up some of that confusion because that was the most alarming thing at the end of the day to all of us. So, with that being said, Mike, the next question is what are some best practices for making sure your website isn't exposing CUI or violating DFARS clauses like 252.204-7012?
Yeah, yeah. And really quickly before I answer that, by a lot of traction, there were like 7 or 8 comments, and 3 of them were ours back to him. But again, that is the dangerous thing about misinformation is that when people get this stuff wrong, or they put their slant on it that's not factual, a whole
Mhm.
bunch of people go pile on and then yeah, God forbid they go wind up failing an assessment or failing the control because of that. So we don't want that to happen to anybody. Uh, what are the steps? Well, the first step is that before any information is posted on a publicly accessible system, it must be reviewed for the presence of CUI. So the way we do that here at On Call, the way we recommend it for our clients is we use a ticketing system for everything. And so when new marketing material is created, the person, the content creators over in the marketing department will essentially submit a service ticket that says, hey, these new marketing items are available, please review. Then, whoever is coordinating the marketing will essentially review those items, verify that there is no presence of CUI, and then submit that back as a note in the ticket and resolve the ticket as reviewed. There is also a incident response procedure that we have, which is if CUI is found, then CUI will be reported to the content creators again, and it will be immediately pulled down. Never had to do that, but we have the written procedure to verify to an assessor that yes, we have a capability of taking down CUI if it is found to be on publicly accessible systems. And the final part is the idea that once every quarter, we are reviewing all of our external marketing so that we can verify that there is still no presence of CUI. So there's a before, during, and after kind of effect that we've created by policy and that our marketing department follows. And yes, we do have someone from compliance actually reviewing that material who knows what CUI is and things like that. So that's our process, and I think that's about as simple as I can really figure out how to make it. As far as I've heard clients say, that's really going to like delay the speed to market. Our approach is really simple. You're required by law to be compliant. This is the rule you've got to be compliant with. And let's be honest, it really doesn't take that much time to review this stuff for the presence of CUI. It's pretty simple and straightforward. And any compliance officer, if you don't have a compliance officer, you can use one of our virtual compliance officers. Again, link in description below if you want to learn more about that. But the idea really is it just needs a quick once over to make sure that there's no blatant presence of CUI there, and then it can be passed on.
Right. Have you ever seen a defense contractor accidentally share too much on their public website, and what happened as a result?
1000%. Yeah, I mean, again, I won't name names, but it is not uncommon to go to defense contractor websites and see all kinds of really cool military stuff being blown up, exploded, and just generally, even I've seen, 3D AutoCAD diagrams of entire military vehicles put as an animation on the front page of someone's website before. And like we saw it and we verified it internally. This is what we were seeing. We go to the client. We said, "Hey, first question on your website, you've got this really cool exploded CAD diagram, and we can zoom in and see measurements and stuff. Is that for an actual military vehicle?" They said, "Yeah." I said, "You got to pull that down. Like, unless you've got a written release from the contract administrator that allows you to show that, you can't go do that. I mean, that's basically blatant exposure of covered defense information and CTI, right? Covered technical information. So it's so cool and it's so hard. It's really hard to walk that line. My suggestion to those people who want to demonstrate their capabilities is just go replicate it to something that's not in a defense contract and give the same basic understanding of what your capabilities are. Um, but man, you cannot go take your military projects and go post them publicly, and we see it all the time. We saw there was one company who I will not mention who was creating, basically parts of a missile, and they were publishing them online with like press releases and real-time updates as they were innovating this missile. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. You're sitting here telling the enemy exactly what our progress is on this project. God, there was another one. There was and again, I can't say what kind of company they are, but there was a company that makes things go boom, like many of our clients, and they were developing something that had not been developed in the United States, and we had to tell them to take some information down because they were showing pictures saying that we're innovating on this thing that we don't want our enemies to know that we don't have. Again, there's lots and lots of instances of this. I do see it all the time. Check out your website. If it is blatantly showing military technology on your website, you need to go back and figure out where did that imagery or where did that video come from? Is it authorized? And do you have written proof that you're authorized to show that on your website? If it turns out that it really did originate from some defense work.
And listen, we get it. Like I love TV shows like SEAL Team and movies like Zero Dark 30. I geek out over the military stuff and the operations and stuff. Who doesn't want to show off a cool piece of technology that they're developing? Who doesn't want to tell people about it, obviously? But we've said this before on this podcast and in videos. Even though CUI stands for Controlled Unclassified Information, when you're dealing with CUI, you have to act as if the C stands for classified. You have to treat it as though it were classified because you can't let it get out. With that being said, Mike, we're down to the silly question that we like to throw out there, and we're talking about websites today. So, you know, th there are so many companies that have mascots, and while On Call doesn't effectively have a mascot, there if our company had a cartoon mascot like the Geico Gecko or like Clippy, the little paperclip that used to pop up on Microsoft Word. Uh, and our mascot popped up as soon as someone entered the company website. What would that mascot be?
Easy question to answer, but I have a way more important question. So the easy answer would be, that person, it would be Captain America, right? I mean, like that's an easy one. We adopted the shield. We love Captain America around here. We are just all about defending those who defend our country, and that's a softball question right there. But the
Just so he
bigger,
don't get trademarked, we'll call him Captain Compliance, right?
yeah, I love that even more. Captain Compliance, right? But there's a bigger question. What happened to Clippy?
Who
What
doesn't love
happened to
Clippy?
Clippy?
Everybody loves Clippy.
Who doesn't
He's
love Clippy?
he's helpful. He helps you do a resume. Like he's just there for you.
I mean, he's your bud, you know? I
The
don't know what happened to Clippy, and I wish they would bring, you know what? We need to make Microsoft Office fun again. That's the problem.
the amount of memories I have sitting in computer lab in elementary school, having conversations with Clippy because I was done with my work. I mean, come on.
I just looked it up. Clippy was officially retired in 2007, but his story is a bit more nuanced. Clippy, whose full name was Clippit, debuted in Office 97. So he had a good 10-year run. As part of Microsoft Office Assistant feature, he would pop up to offer tips, help users write letters, or answer questions. You're telling me that Clippy was like the first AI in Microsoft Office?
Listen, Clippy needs to come out of retirement.
Oh, I
Hashtag
love,
restore Clippy.
yeah, yeah, restore Clippy. So, and then it says often uninvited and in an overly enthusiastic manner.
Definitely uninvited most of the time. Uh,
Oh my
but
God. Why? I love it. Why people didn't like him. Clippy quickly became infamous for interrupting workflows with unwanted help, using canned suggestions that weren't always helpful, being hard to disable, and despite being intended as a friendly user guide, he was widely seen as annoying and intrusive.
well,
This is the
fix
good
Clippy and
stuff.
bring him back. Fix Clippy and bring him back. But but to go back to the answer to the question, we're going with Captain Compliance for the on-call mascot. We should really get on that. We should make an official mascot.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Legacy and comebacks. Clippy remains a pop culture icon. Microsoft has occasionally brought him back in fun ways, i.e., Clippy emoji in Microsoft Teams,
Do
or
it.
as an Easter egg in GitHub projects. In
Yes.
2021, Microsoft briefly replaced the paperclip emoji in Windows 11 with Clippy as a nostalgic nod.
Clippy returns. Bring him
Dude,
back in Microsoft Office commercials. Do something with him. Give him a voice. Do something.
yeah, like let's not be done with Clippy. I think that was hilarious.
But anyway, we should really get on Captain Compliance. We should make him a thing. We should have somebody design him, and he should be there.
Sounds
Um,
sounds like a nice Fiverr or Upwork project.
and we could take the shield that's behind us in these backgrounds, and we could have Captain Compliance be holding it, like as if he's Captain America. Anyway, uh, and that wraps up another great episode of Mission Compliance. We hope our discussion today has provided you with valuable insights, practical strategies, and inspiration to navigate the ever-evolving world of defense. We'd like to thank Mike for joining us and talking about the very important topic of what you can post on your public-facing websites, but also showing an appreciation for Clippy. Thanks, Mike.
Hey, always a pleasure, Roman.
But the conversation doesn't end here. We encourage you to continue exploring these topics and connect with us via our social media channels. Share your thoughts, ask questions, and engage with fellow listeners using the hashtag Mission Compliance Podcast and also the hashtag Restore Clippy. If they haven't already, what should they do, Mike?
Well, they should subscribe, definitely tell a friend, and you know what? Write Microsoft and tell them we want Clippy back in Microsoft Office, especially because
Absolutely.
let's be honest,
Mike Mike
Copilot's
says to
boring.
email Microsoft.
Yeah,
Comes from
that's
Mike
right.
himself.
That's right. I was just gonna say, I think Microsoft Copilot's like super boring. I think Clippy would be so much better.
Of course, absolutely. Or you could make Clippy a pilot. He could wear a little pilot's hat. Anyway, but by hitting that subscribe button, it helps us to bring you thought-provoking episodes and high-quality content. Join us next time as we delve further into the dynamic world of defense, security, and industry innovation. Until then, take care, stay informed, and make compliance your mission. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody.